Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Luke Carriere. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Witbe, and we're here to discuss 5 ways blockchain is disrupting entertainment. So looks like a relatively small audience compared to the kickoff this morning, but that's good. We can be intimate. You're all on the cutting edge, so I can answer any questions. Even if they come up throughout the presentation, I'd like this to appeal to you and for us all to be on the same page about it. So first, I'd like to get a little sense of the audience involvement in blockchain or cryptography. So is there anyone who would consider themselves an expert on blockchain? Anyone who's purchased Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies and willing to admit it? Great. It looks like there's some, we've got some vested interest in the audience. That's always good. So the purpose of this speech today and why I'm here is really to explain how this technology could affect our industry. And I, of course, realize disrupt is a strong word. OTT is just now disrupting the media and entertainment industry and becoming sort of mainstream. So how could I say blockchain is disrupting? I would like to just categorize this as an introduction to the potential of this technology to affect our industry and show some real-life examples of how it's already being integrated into our industry. So just so you know my background, I'm with Witbe, which is a quality of experience technology company that helps OTT services, any digital service, to monitor the quality and control the quality of their service through any network on any device. And the reason why I went down this rabbit hole is to really see if we were able to monitor even services that were involving blockchain technology and decentralized to the extreme. So the answer is yes, but we'll go into that a little bit further. Just so you know, I've tried my very best to be qualified to speak to you about this topic. So my first exposure really came from my involvement volunteering for hackathons to teach university students how to launch technology companies. And one student in particular, Jonathan Mohan, was very interested and bullish on cryptography. And I thought it was interesting, but I didn't see his vision until I was at Piano, which does microtransactions for digital publications. And we looked at integrating Bitcoin as a payment method. We ultimately decided against it because there was virtually no one interested in paying with Bitcoin, but it got on our radar. And so the main missing element was that it was just another form of money, one that no one was using. But when Ethereum and Ether came onto the scene and promised smart contracts and the ability to code and have a Turing-complete programming language trigger this value exchange of money, then it became useful digital currency. And so I invested in the first Ether sale even before they had wallets. It was also known as the Genesis block. And I was really excited after that first sale that they raised 18 million. And I think that now the market cap's over 20 billion, somewhere around there. Then I went on to Kling doing e-commerce for video content, and I participated in a hackathon in New York City where I tried to make a decentralized OTT application in the programming language Solidity, which helps you code Ethereum smart contracts. And that's when I really noticed it was taking off. So I got involved in a venture capital company, TransLunar1. So just a disclaimer, through them, I do have some interest in some of the technology companies we'll be mentioning today. And disclaimer, this is speeches for informational purposes only, not investment or legal advice. I then performed one of the first smart contracts on real estate transactions with a Bitcoin-to-Bitcoin purchase of real estate here in the state of California, actually. And I'm completing this year my master's in science degree in digital currency with University of Nicosia, currently enrolled in a cryptographic systems course, which is quite technical. So that's where I'm coming to you from. But today I want to kind of orient you to the state of the crypto industry, speak a little bit about distributed networks, and then why protocols like Bitcoin have the potential to change the industry and then 5 practical instances that that's already happening that you can actually check out on the web and download on your mobile phone and interact with. So the state of crypto. First of all, you're all familiar with probably the technology adoption curve, and I would say falls squarely in the innovative section, very early market, a lot of experimentation and pilots going on. So even more interesting than this is overlaying the adoption curve with the performance curve and the hype curve. The peak of the hype closely matches actually the last December's spike in the prices of a lot of cryptocurrencies, and there was a lot of the bubble burst after that, and it went down into, hold on, is this, let's question the value, and maybe we need to pivot. Is this really worth what we think it's worth? But we're at an interesting inflection point. I would place the usefulness of blockchain at this initial rollout stage, where there's a lot of disillusionment, but there's also a lot of interesting directions that it could go. So a little bit of background about distributed networks. This is not the newest concept. This graph was from the 60s, and it just shows a centralized network, a decentralized network, and a distributed network. So as it applies to our industry, a centralized network might be the way that video used to be distributed one-to-many through a satellite network or cable network where the infrastructure was largely controlled and the network had all the intelligence and the devices were just receivers, essentially. So as long as the network was working, you could pretty much estimate that the service was working to the end devices. Enter Video 2.0, really amazing to hear this morning's kickoff presentation, making this possible, video delivery through the unmanaged network. And we can see here that the intelligence has moved to the devices. Now everything is transaction-based. Video is not being pushed in one direction to receivers, but smart devices are requesting video, and it's having to go through unmanaged networks to request it and then to be delivered back to the edge device. So, and edge-to-core testing and monitoring is required for that. And that's largely what Witbe does, tests from the edge to the core to make sure that's all working. But then the question became, if that's a decentralized system, relying on CDNs as the different nodes perhaps, then what if the video industry progresses to a distributed system where maybe there's peer-to-peer distribution? How could you possibly ensure quality when different peers are supplying different parts of the content to each other? And that's why there's this quote, so far the central organizations have been necessary in order to have trusted authorities, and there's going to be a rewriting of everything so that those central organizations are replaced by central functions, and those functions can be codified in smart contracts. These are, the contracts will be governed by protocols, and that's why we'll go into the importance of protocols and what are protocols. The value of protocols. So I want to talk a little bit about past technology, and starting with the hardware era and how hardware was commodified thanks to microprocessors, the software era, and software was commodified through open source and free distribution. And now we could classify what we're in today as the networks era or the data era, where a lot of value is being created and captured by having huge silos of data, walled gardens, sometimes they're called. And how can that data possibly be commodified? How can that value be transferred from a walled garden with a perimeter around the data to how can that be disrupted, right? And we'll go into how protocols do that right now. The web is relying on an applications layer and a protocol layer. Right now, the protocol layer is very small. It's things like HTTP, like TCP/IP, and those were created to allow the transfer of data, and they work really, really well at that. But they don't capture any of the data. So any data that needs to be captured is being captured at the applications layer. And this is what's allowing companies to grow enormous and huge because they have data and they can monetize that data. They can serve better recommendations. They can personalize things. They can serve ads based on that data. So a lot of the value is being captured at the applications layer. That's the world we're living in now. But with crypto and a tokenized ecosystem, there's two main types of tokens. Utility tokens, which are actually used to exchange value through the network, and then coins, which you might think of like Bitcoin, which have just pure value and are used as money. Well, with cryptography, we're now able to store data in the protocol layer. So by being able to capture data in the protocol layer, this is why, for example, if you've purchased any coin or Bitcoin, this is why you're able to switch wallets from a Coinbase wallet to a BitPay wallet to another wallet just by using your key. You couldn't switch banks. If you had money in a bank, you couldn't just download a different bank's app, put in your password, and your money appears in the different bank's application, right? That doesn't work that way. But because the data and the history of your transactions is stored in the protocol, you are able to switch applications really easily and use a different wallet. So this combination of having a shared data layer and the data sitting in the protocol, plus having an access token, is creating value at the protocol layer and creating a competitive and vibrant applications layer ecosystem. So what do those ecosystems look like? Here's three categories. Bitcoin, it's kind of like a decentralized money, and there are other second layer application layers and infrastructure layers and then service applications built on that. Distributed storage networks are allowing for storage of data or media assets in a distributed way. And you can think of that like a decentralized drive or AWS. And Ethereum, which is just decentralized computing. So this is allowing the smart contracts and the protocol to do the computing. And there's a lot of infrastructure layers, application layers, and end user applications built on that. And there are others as well, aside from Ethereum. Here's some of the others. So the question is, are they actually being used? Are any of these protocols actually being used? Here's some evidence. Blocktivity.info shares the usage of some of these protocols. It's interesting. I gave this speech at IBC and NAB New York, and every time I update this, I just updated it yesterday, it changes. It's quite dynamic. And so yesterday it happened that Wax, which provides a way for exchanging, buying and selling of digital content, skins, in fact, different skins for video game costumes and things like that. There's a market for that, believe it or not, and people are using it to actually sell and exchange digital goods already. Just yesterday, I moderated a panel called the New OTT Experience, which explains that besides just delivering video content, the future of OTT is having interactive experiences, whether that's buying or selling something, bidding at auctions, or something like that. So this is very much real in the potential to integrate with our industry. At the top graph, you'll see the most top application operations of the most active blockchains. So Wax, EOS is also like Ethereum, another protocol that allows you to create smart contracts. BitShares, which runs Steam and Steemit on that. Dash, a different Dash from the video codec, and Steam and the rest. That's quite a different story, the actual usage of this technology as compared to the market caps, which is more sensational, gets a lot of the headlines, creates a lot of the hype, the value of these different ones. So you can see EOS is a huge portion of that market cap, despite being a smaller portion of the actual operations. And so it's interesting that in the past, Bitcoin and Ether used to be in the top 5. They've dropped down to number 6 and 7. So decentralized money is not being operated as traded as much as the actual usage of other protocols for other purposes. So in our industry, not all of this is new work. Peer-to-peer distribution is already capable. It's not that blockchain enables the capability to do peer-to-peer distribution. One company that does it really well is StreamRoot, and you can see that when broadcasting live sporting events especially, you might have issues, degradation issues, buffering issues, rebuffering, and by sharing some peer-to-peer distribution, you're able to create a better user experience and save up to 70% on CDN costs. So that's great. That's amazing. But who is capturing that value? Well, it's the broadcaster who has engaged with StreamRoot or who has worked with a CDN who partnered in order to make this possible. And that's great. But what's possible in the new system with some decentralized peer-to-peer technologies is to actually bring the viewer into that value chain. So the value won't be captured in the future necessarily by the broadcaster, but it can be shared with the actual nodes, with the actual peers, and they can participate not just in the transfer of the data to share the stream with each other, but the transfer of the value of exchanging say upload, they get compensated, and download, they pay. Microtransactions are possible with tokens. So this is one application in the distribution, and another category of application is in the monetization. So ads, right now, the first keynote in today's industry, we heard that Sling TV can do one-to-one programmatic ad serving, and that's excellent. That's creating more relevant ads for everyone. In the future, this company, Alpha Networks, has partnered with IBM actually to create a proof of engagement. So with their token, Buy TV tokens, you're actually able to use the user data and exchange value based on the proof that a viewer has engaged with an ad without necessarily knowing who that viewer is or having served the ad yourself. That proof of engagement is recorded into immutable blockchain, and that can be trusted across parties. So a big part of what blockchain is enabling is is removing intermediaries, and there are a lot of intermediaries in the ad world. So I want to show some specific examples of real life that you can actually engage with today and see that this isn't just in the future or theoretical, but you can actually test some of these. I did a lot of research, as much as I could comprehensively, of anyone involved in video for blockchain space, and found a lot of these. They're at different stages of white papers or raising funds or trying to create a pilot. And some are actually live, and I've selected 5 of them to go a little bit deeper on. So Steemit is, I'll go from a advertised top 5, but I actually found 6 I wanted to talk about. So at number 6, changing the value chain. Steemit, which is built on Steam, it's kind of like a decentralized social network. So the value of decentralization, again, it's that it gives the participants of the social network a place at the table in that value chain in order to own their own data and exchange it as they would like for participating in the revenue models of these services. So Steemit allows you to post status updates and find friends on there and engage like a social network would allow you to, but you have more control over your data, and that's really relevant today, especially when you see some security issues in the headlines of failures to protect user data. Why would you allow a platform to monetize off of you? You know, as they say, if you're not paying for it, then you're the product. So this enables you to not be the product, but be paid for your content and your engagement with the service and an application. Also, since Steem is a protocol, Steemit is the social network built on that protocol, but there are many decentralized apps that are also built on the Steem protocol. And every time an app is created and gains usage and utility in the real world, the value of that protocol is proven further, and this is why the value of that market cap of that protocol might go up, or the value of a coin of that protocol might go up. It's largely driven by the proof that it's actually functioning well. So DTube, for example, you can imagine it's a decentralized video tube. So I would encourage you to check some of these out, try them, and see where they're at today. Number 5, for its disrupting the value chain by including viewers in it, is current. So without changing anything about the content delivery or stack, it's just simply allowing the viewers of the content to engage in the value chain and be rewarded for their engagement and viewing of the content. For its peer-to-peer distribution, Sliver TV, it's kind of like a decentralized Twitch. Again, Twitch is often held up as esports and a good example of an interactive service that's engaging users by more than just one-to-many viewing. So this is a way for gamers to broadcast their games or watch other gamers and actually, again, participate in the value of their viewing and gain tokens and rewards, which they can then exchange for physical goods in order to realize the value of their viewing. Number 3, for its enabling crowd investing, Bond, it's kind of like a decentralized Vimeo in that it's a kind of a premium film platform, and it doesn't just allow you to watch your favorite independent filmmaker, but you can actually purchase a stake in your favorite channel or your favorite producer and participate in the revenue stream if they're selling their movie for a premium price, or if they're monetizing via ads. You can, as a big fan, actually purchase a stake and engage with that business as an owner. So this is going beyond simply, it's kind of a combination actually of Vimeo if it were to marry seed invest or a crowdfunding platform. At number 2, for influencing watermarking, DRM is a big important element of our industry, and piracy is a big issue as well. So ScreenorCopy, which is built on the Custos video protocol, is enabling you to upload any video. And I want to walk you through, actually, I did this as an exercise to see how difficult it was. And you don't even have to be a developer to use it. The first step is to upload your video into their platform. The second step is that they store it in their servers. They place a watermark invisibly on it, and they let you know when the watermark's ready and the video is ready for distribution. Then you can name the emails that you want to share it to. So ScreenorCopy comes from a screener of a movie maybe before its release, a critic or someone who has access to it. And it used to be that you wouldn't be able to necessarily know if that was shared or in an unauthorized way. And what they do is embed a Bitcoin bounty in each copy. And if that bounty is found, then someone gets a reward. So there's an incentive to find the pirated copies and reveal that they've been pirated. So the content is protected. And how would you detect an infringement? If the content's found anywhere on the web by bounty hunters, then their bounty is given as a reward. And you get a notification of infringement, and they can even identify who the leaker was, as that's probably part of the watermark. So this is what their website looks like and their interface. Simple to upload a video. I uploaded my own video of doing the New York Triathlon, and it notified me when it was ready for distribution. I was able to enter the email of someone to send it to, and I could download it for distribution or uploading on any other site that I wanted to. So the number 1 potential for disruption is advertising. And this great example of this is last year Comcast announced an advanced advertising group that would created a blockchain insights platform. And I think it's really interesting that they've been able to enable data-driven marketing without exposing data or sharing data with other parties. So because the data is still residing in the protocol, they're able to serve more targeted ads to certain demographics, because across channels, across participants in their initiative, that normally would be those silos of data that don't share with each other, they're now able to share viewing data and demographics data to better target ads across different companies. So they do this, and in their words, it has benefits several stakeholders. So for advertisers, it allows them to match data sets to build media plans and segment audiences more precisely. For programmers, they're able to improve their targeting and create new revenue streams for participants. And participants, again, can be the advertisers, the programmers, or the viewers. So the consumers, it has the benefit of privacy and encryption and rights management layers. It allows different marketers from different companies to ask questions of each other's data without necessarily gaining access or taking possession of that data. So this technology, in their words, provides a more efficient platform for premium video marketplace while keeping individual data sources safe, private, and secure. And this is their press release. I wasn't able to gain access to the platform, but they announced that participants like NBCU, Disney, Altice, Channel 4, and Cox and Mediaset, NTF1 Group. So some big participants exploring this. So I want to give you some access to resources that I trust. A podcast called Let's Talk Bitcoin, a free massive online open courseware by University of Nicosia, Intro to Digital Currency, and a Bitcoin meetup in New York City, but you can probably find one in your region to speak to the people involved in the industry. Again, Witbe is quality of experience, and my name is Luke Carriere, Chief Marketing Officer. I'm happy to answer any questions about the space. I know that was a lot of information thrown at you quickly, but I think it's a very interesting space with a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see where you see some applications or what your interest in this space is. So please feel free to ask any question. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know too much about blockchain, or I don't have much experience on it, but as far as the kind of cryptographic overhead, is it high compared to just regular like video encryption? I guess you have a device that's trying to go at the same time.
Sure. So if a device were trying to Yeah, so the question is, how does the overhead of blockchain compare to current encrypted content, decrypting content? So it's not performant. I'll go back to the slide on the adoption cycle and the hype curve, the hype cycle. Right now, as we saw with when a blockchain application scales, like CryptoKitties you might have seen in the news, it allows you to design your own cat and a different outfit or color or something. And this actually went a little bit viral, and a lot of people began using it, and it was not performant. It caused, there were delays, and it was not performing very well. So you can see the performance S-curve lags behind that initial rollout period, because until you're able to find the right pivot and find the right initial rollout, you're not going to optimize for scaling. And only Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, there was a little differences in how they thought they should scale to make transactions faster, and they actually forked, and Bitcoin forked, and that was in order to take a different approach towards scalability. So it is not performant and it's not scalable at this point. Actually, you can also see in the utility section where it lists the most, here we go. There's a little scale on the right-hand side, and this is from blocktivity.info, and you can see some of them are in the red zone, and that's showing that it's actually really, so Bitcoin, for example, is in the red, Ether is in the red. That's showing that the protocol is there's so much demand on the protocol and the network that it's not performing as quickly as it needs to be. So there's definitely room for improving on that, and that shows that it's not ready for prime time quite yet. But in fact, on the internet, you'll find a funny flowchart which answers the question, do I need blockchain? Do any of you need blockchain? And it's only a 2-box flowchart, and it says blockchain and an arrow to another box that says no. If you want, it's just a type of database, right? And it's a really, really secure database, with the trade-off being that it's really, really slow. And but in some world, when when privacy takes its toll and security leaks take their toll, there will be a situation when that trade-off is worth it to some degree. And also, as the kickoff mentioned this morning, going from the edge device to the server and all the way back is the worst, right? That causes the most delays. And what doing the peer-to-peer distribution allows is not to go all the way back to the server to fetch, but to do some peer-to-peer distribution. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are ways that it can overcome these obstacles. Yeah. Great question. Any other question? Yes.
Can you talk more about, I think it was number 3, about investing in?
The third bond is what I would call decentralized, kind of a crowd investing platform, kind of like a Vimeo combined with a seed invest. If you're not familiar, it's kind of a crowd investing platform, or Kickstarter. So in this way, not only can you just purchase premium videos and watch independent filmmakers' videos, but you can also purchase a stake in the channel or in the assets. You can share in revenue, and you can be part of that filmmaking community. So sorry, I didn't let you ask the question.
So I guess that's, so how does blockchain make this available more to other technologies?
Sure, great question. So, of course, everything that I just named about Bond is still possible in today's world. You can already create Vimeo exists, and Seed Invest or Kickstarter exists, so you could just combine them and create this offering in a non-blockchain world. The difference is that world, everything would still be reliant on centralized organizations. You have to trust that the intermediary. So you would have to trust the bond platform to hold your investment and to distribute fairly the revenue from the channel. When that data is held in the protocol, then you're able to not need to trust bond. You need to trust the protocol, but that's code like any other code, and it's usually open source and vetted by everyone. So it's transparent, and you can verify that the code works, the smart contracts work, and that if you purchase a stake in this channel, it's as automatic as a vending machine that you'll be participating in the revenue share. So you're absolutely correct in that the value proposition is still possible in today's world, just like the peer-to-peer distribution is still possible. The difference is right now relying on that third-party organization as opposed to relying on a functioning protocol. And this is why I think, if you take anything away, that when you see the growth of these market caps, and maybe rightfully so, it seems like speculation, what it actually is people recognizing that these protocols have value and that they're slowly but surely replacing the centralized organizations, and the value, so therefore the value follows the data into the protocol rather than into the application layer. Yes?
Experience to be a specialist. Are you seeing any music companies that are streaming music using blockchain as a tool or helping them lead their technologies in the next
Yeah, so the question is the music industry and streaming music. Absolutely, I focus on video applications in this talk, but Ujo Music is, for example, a company that has created a protocol which allows the music creators to actually, you can assign different tracks of the different instruments to different musicians and upload them together so that each time the song is played or purchased, the revenue is going directly to the artists, cutting out essentially a lot of intermediaries of agencies and talent agents, or whoever takes a cut in between the artist and the film buying. Entire platforms of music streaming services can be cut out of that. So Ujo Music is one. There's a couple others. A few weeks ago, I went to New York Media Festival in New York, and they had an entire panel of different music streaming companies on the blockchain. But I would start with Ujo Music, UJO. Great. Well, if there's any other questions, I'll stay after and be happy to answer them and speak with you. Thank you very much for your time today, and I would just encourage you to check out some of these companies and explore blockchain for yourself and educate yourself through some of these resources like the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast. Hope you have a great show.